Today we're making a cinematic pop song that sounds like this.
Cause I miss the way you made me feel. I just wanna be somewhere near you. Can I stay a little longer in your atmosphere?
I'm Ryan Bieber.
And I'm Sergio Snow.
And this is our new song, Atmosphere, out now. And today we're breaking down exactly how we wrote, recorded, and produced it. It's inspired by artists like Myles, Harry Styles, Ed Sheeran, and we're specifically going to be talking about those cinematic elements that kind of give it that big, full sound. So I think when it comes to making a cinematic song, a lot of it comes down to like conceptually where you start. And I know both of us, when we were creating this, were imagining the movie Interstellar, actually.
Absolutely.
Can you explain like how envisioning another piece of art or like a movie impacts the musical process?
It was also that movie, Fault in Our Stars. Yeah, mostly, I was mostly thinking about that movie when I started the production. It was actually the beginning of the movie that helped bring out the sound that we were interested in. Like when the camera was right there with the two characters, the boy and the girl, but they were lying on the grass, and the camera pans slowly to the sky, a sky full of stars. And I think that's what inspired the sound that we got at the end.
And I think at least for me with like Interstellar, it's the combination of like, it's so grounded in like the Midwest and these dusty plains, but at the same time, you have this otherworldly, futuristic world of space. So I'm like, how can we combine that? Because like there's folk elements in the song, which I think lend itself to that sort of plains aspect, and then the spacey reverb and delay and all that stuff that we get into that kind of gets it to the atmospheric stuff that defines the song. When you were writing, what inspired, especially your second verse, I would say, like
I would say the entirety of the songs that I write, they come from like real places. I remember when, like, back in the days, it was fun going outside, playing. Sometimes it would start to rain. At that time in my country, because I'm from West Africa, Benin Republic, it rains a lot. So yeah, I remember those times very vividly still. Yeah.
I love in your lyrics, like you start with, winter's come to an end, we're back to spring again. It just like sets the scene so beautifully, because I can relate to so much like that feeling of the first day of spring when the sun comes out, and it just evokes this like warmth inside of me. When I was writing the verses and writing in general, I try and pull those tangible experiences, but specifically I think like, what did it smell like? What did it feel like? What did it taste like? And like with your dancing in the rain, like I can feel the raindrops on my skin. And same with my verse, I'm talking about I guess I've never snuck out from my parents' place. I grew up in like the suburbs of New York, but like in my mind I was picturing like like the Midwest, the plains, and you're like sneaking out the window of your like second floor room, and you know like there's a tree, and you ever seen the movies and they like sneak out, and then I'm imagining them like going stargazing. And while that exact scenario hasn't happened to me, I had like one of my best memories in college was going stargazing with a group of friends in a field and just looking up. So again, it was like, it's not all, you don't have to be 100% telling your personal story, but just combining those tangible experiences and moments and then using it to craft a larger narrative, you know?
Yeah.
And I think too, with just like the idea of the song is atmosphere, and we wanted to play with that. And so like in my verse, I mentioned like, you were the sun, I was the satellite. Like I'm stuck in the space between us. And I think like kind of verbally reinforcing that idea of atmosphere was something I was going for. All right, so when it comes to the production, we wanted to, again, mirror the words atmosphere in a lot of ways. So that comes to how we play around with like the reverb, the delay, the echoes, and kind of make that spacious quality. And I think something we both had from the get-go was also dynamics. That was like a major key point of the song, because it's not like in movies, in the soundtracks, like it's all about the difference between like the quietest parts and the highest parts, and really creating that growth. It's not cinematic if it's all on the big booming level the whole time. You need to have the differences. So it's crazy, like if you look at the waveform, like it starts out so tiny, and then as the drums come in, as the pianos come in, and as the vocal layers start to come in, it just swells and builds. So I think that was something we like set out from the get-go to do.
Yeah, 100%. What like helped when we started the production was the guitar. Like the way you started playing it was like, it was very beautiful, a little bit folky and stuff like that. I think it is a very defining instrument in the whole, throughout the whole song.
It's interesting that you say that because, like, I mean, that's how the song started. Like, I was the one who started the song and I came up with the first verse and chorus and then brought it to you. But even before I started writing lyrics, I was just messing around on the guitar and just trying out different specific picking patterns and doing like hammer-ons and pull-offs as opposed to just like, you know, strumming the chords, because that's what can give a song a unique characteristic. We recorded this song, or started recording it, like a year ago.
Yeah.
And in the past videos I've done, I've been talking about my system for miking guitars and using fancy condenser microphones and all this stuff. Then I just did it DI, like it's literally one track acoustic guitar DI, which like most producers, most people would tell you like, oh my God, like never do that. And I don't do it anymore either. But like multiple people, not just Sergio, like people who've listened to the song have come up and said, I really love how the guitar sounds. So we threw on ROM reverb. It's like my favorite reverb plugin, but just literally there's nothing done to it, not like any selective EQ, just literally I think I just took out a little of the low end, maybe took out some of the highs or boosted a few parts, but like literally almost nothing was done to the guitar. It's pretty much just like as simple as you can get, and it's because we add in a lot more like elements later on, so it just needs to be the bare bones, the groundwork. Yeah.
And I like how like from the beginning it was all like just the guitar and some little, very little elements.
I think a lot of the cinematic elements in the song, like totally props to Sergio, because I've mentioned this in my videos, like I don't have the biggest like synth libraries, I don't have like the contact libraries, native instrument stuff. And so we were actually working on multiple DAWs here. Like I tracked originally in Ableton and then we're using a bit of Logic. But I'd love, Sergio, for you to break down some of these instruments because I don't have them personally, and like they really made the song. What you were talking about in the intro verse, it's just vocals, guitar, and then we have this beautiful, like interesting, like reverberating vibrato pad, and then this other sort of like synthy bell that comes in. It's called, it's Pigments, right?
Yeah, of course. It is Pigment from Arturia.
But okay, so this is a preset called Really Long Keys. It's nice because like I hear the note first off, but then it has like this very airy quality, like almost like a whistle to it. And you can, that kind of like gives a sense of like a soft breeze coming through, I would almost say. Did we do anything to like the sound itself? Like these were presets that we were cycling through trying to find just what sound worked for it.
I only tweaked like the attack and the decay a little bit of the keyboard. When I started, to be honest, I was not sure what I was doing, but it is also like listening to how it sounds in the context of the mix. But I wanted to go with something soft,
So in this case, you basically modified it so it wouldn't sound so harsh coming in.
Yes.
It was a bit of a smoother sort of influx.
Absolutely.
And I think like that particular riff is kind of mirroring some vocal melodies that are to come, which I think is like a really cool thing we did in the song, because like when you first listen, like it's just the guitar and then this little bell thing comes in, and like you wouldn't know it the first time around, but like when you listen a second time, when you listen a third time, you get like an enjoyment, a secondary like realization, like, oh, that's the melody that I hear later on. And we do the same thing with the guitar does it, the piano does it. So kind of having like a motif and establishing it from the beginning and then trading off between instruments, I think that's like a really cool thing you can do to just like make your song diverse and interesting all the way throughout.
Those little like moments are very important in the sense that you don't want it to be stagnant throughout the whole song. You need to bring some elements here and there, and I think that's what we were going for, to make it more interesting to the ears. It is not just for this type of song, but also other genres of music. You always want to bring some little elements here and there. It can be in the left ear or the right ear.
Yeah,
flat.
panning plays a big role to get like, oh, what's that over there?
Really
What's that
quick.
over there?
What is exactly?
Yeah.
So that's we went for that. I'm very happy that we did it.
Yeah. Can you break down the, besides that in the beginning, there's this one pad, it like stays on one note the whole time, the root note. Atmos vibe, we called it. I think I do this in like almost all my songs now, but just to start like as a bed underneath the guitar, the piano, like having just a pad that's staying on one single note, the root note, like that's kind of a nice way to fill out the mix without like adding in a ton of instruments. You can still be soft with it. Can you talk about your piano? Because I'm like guitar player first. Sergio, like his thing besides singing, of course, is piano. Like you have a great, I don't know, you're just like well practiced with it. What preset do you use, or what is like your go-to piano sound?
Mostly I just go with the sounds in Omnisphere.
Omnisphere.
Yeah, I love grand piano, but this one in particular is just the grand piano.
Yes, the LA Custom C7 Grand Piano. Do you modify the presets at all when you use them?
Not really, because it sounds really good, like immediately.
Yeah.
You don't need to tweak anything.
That's the thing I see where like you want to feel like you're doing something, and like I see lots of producers like, okay, well obviously this needs compression or this needs EQ, but like sometimes it doesn't. Like you just listen and like if it sounds good, it sounds good. Of course later in the mixing, yeah, sure, maybe you have to duck some stuff out, you got to make room for other instruments, but I think like it comes to just the creative process, like minimal work, just let it all flow. Yeah.
So the way the piano comes in is just like block of chords to make it big, to open the listener's mind to something bigger.
It really does open up as soon as the piano comes in. I think when it comes to like, again, cinematic songs, key instruments, like one, piano, that's like as cinematic as you can get. And then also, as we're about to talk about, cello, violin, like any strings, of course, that's gonna instantly cinematic. The preface, like first verse, most of the chorus is just guitar, piano, a few pads. In the second verse, the shakers come in, the drum, just a subtle kick comes in. And then verse 2, it's like both of our harmonies. But the main place where we focused a lot of our energy on and was really the climax of the song, the big cinematic moment, was the bridge. And like, I think the amount of tracks doubled just for the bridge, you know, because we wanted to make this as big as possible.
Yeah.
So like, let's break into that because you put in a ton of cool stuff on that.
We added like some cello right here. It is from Contact 7.
Library. Okay.
Yeah. Pretty interesting. Very good library. Very good sound. It was just those root notes that of the chords that I put underneath to make it like richer.
There's so many instruments going on that you can't necessarily always pick everything out, but there's actually a lot of arpeggios happening. I think there's one of the violins is doing like the da 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 da.
Yeah.
And it just adds, you know, extra movement, more dynamics to it. And it's like, because if you already have the cello doing the root notes, the piano doing the bass chords, like you want some movement. All the instruments can't just be doing whole notes, quarter notes.
Here, like we have layered, I think, 3 instruments. We have the violins underneath. We double the bells, and what we did is we took the bell, and normally I think we pan that left and right. The violin is in the center, and this is what it sounds like. It is barely perceptible, like in the mix. It is a tiny thing because we also have the vocals.
Yeah, that's the thing. You need to leave space for the vocals.
Yes.
So, and the bells really add like another level of that like shimmery high end, like
Yes.
super high up, and that really cuts through because like, look, the bass occupies like the low frequencies, the voice is somewhere in like the mids, and then you have to have something to fill out the high points and really create that full perspective of sound. So that's nice to have something that's that like high pitched, you know?
Yeah. And what you can do to make that work, cut out the low end like completely,
Yeah.
so that it doesn't clash with anything
Exactly.
like in the mid or the low. Like,
Yeah, if the bells are meant to take up the high end space, like you don't need any of that low end. So take all that out so the bass can be occupying that space. And you had, so let's see, there's like an organ that's also pretty subtle, but you know, organs have a lot of feeling to them.
yeah.
Is that just a Logic instrument right there? The power chord organ?
Yes,
Yeah,
I
stock
believe.
instrument from Logic.
Yeah.
Takes you to church.
Yes.
That's the goal.
Oh, what like pushed me at that time to use that organ is like when you, as you mentioned, take me to church. When you go to church and you hear that sound, like it is just so like celestial. That was the goal, to bring something celestial in the mix.
I think the last cool element, like literally my favorite part of the song, is you put in these bells, like just big chiming bells, and I think that's like peak cinematic feel, like something I would have never thought of. What is this? These tubular bells?
Yeah.
Where did you get this?
I think it is from Nexus.
Okay.
Nexus. How do you say it? Tubular.
Tubular. Yeah. Tubular. Baby.
Whatever. But yes, it is just one note throughout the whole bridge. It is to keep you grounded, like in that space.
I think the very last thing to talk about is actually the mastering. So we sent this song out to a guy named Gene Williams, right?
Gene Williams.
Gene Williams, he's like mastered a bunch of stuff, and this is like the best master I've heard. But it was interesting because like, you know, he asked us for a lot of notes beforehand and gave us feedback and notes afterwards. And like, the thing is, you know, mastering can kind of, sometimes, at least for me personally, probably not for everyone, but it can be like an afterthought. It's like, okay, let's just get the song up to the final like levels and quality. But with the mastering, you have a lot of options because like you can choose to basically, you know, have the song sound really even throughout, like have it pretty compressed so there's not like as many dynamics, but it's at a consistent level. But like we specifically made a point of mentioning like, hey, we want the song to still have dynamics. You don't have to go crazy with like the compression or the limiter. You can, and that we want the bridge to be like the climax of the song and really have the energy there, right?
Yeah.
All right.
Did you want to read it?
I'll just read like some brief sections. So he says, it was about subtly amplifying the emotional content in the song. So there's some gentle rises, swells, subtle widening, and deepening of the soundstage. So I think that's something like, I don't even think about those things or know how to do that when I'm mastering. But like the way he's saying, like he widened certain parts, that's another like technique, especially for the cinematic feel, like where everything just gets bigger because it literally is like surrounding you more, you know? It starts, like we said, conceptually, then it comes down to the production and the instrument choice, and then finally how you shape the final structure and how you sculpt the song, the waveform, and the entire mix really is the last key element to making a cinematic pop song.
Absolutely.
There you have it. That's how you make a cinematic pop song. This song, again, was called Atmosphere. It's by me, Ryan Bieber, and Sergio Snow. It's out wherever you get music. It's down, linked in the description. You can also click it right here if you're watching on desktop. And yeah, we'll be doing more videos like this in the future. Go check out Sergio's stuff because he has the most amazing music as well. Yeah, and we got a nice little lyric video on his channel as well. So I'll be linking that down there too. See you around next time.
Adios.
In your atmosphere, in your atmosphere.